On Answers for Living, we're looking at how we should respond when we do the right thing and we get the wrong results. Here's the second thing we should remember. Don't assume that every valley means a wrong turn. And we love to think that if we're doing the right thing, everything's going to go smoothly. Well, Exodus chapter 14, the Israelites had been slaves for 400 years in Egypt, and God sends Moses to lead them out of slavery into the promised land. Through a series of miracles, they're released from Egypt, and they're on their way to the promised land. And the first place God leads them is into a boxed-in canyon with the Red Sea right in front of them. Pharaoh has changed his mind. He wants his workforce back, so he's pursuing them. So the Israelites see the mountains on the right and the mountains on the left. They see the Red Sea right in front of them, and they can hear the horses coming behind them, and they don't have any idea what God has planned, but they really let Moses know this is not a good place to be. God tells Moses, hold his staff out over the sea, and when he does, the sea parts, and the people, 2 million of them, walk across the sea on dry ground. Pharaoh's army enters, and when they are in the middle of the Red Sea, God closes the water and Pharaoh's army is killed. So God tests Israel, and they fail the test, and he destroys their archenemy at the same time. But in order to do that, he needed to lead them into a valley. Now in Psalm 23, it says, he guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. And even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Now we usually talk about this passage in reference to the dark valley of death and dying. And we're reminding ourselves that God is with us when we're dying. And he is. But this psalm is not about death and dying. This psalm is about a shepherd. A human shepherd, God, guides us along the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And then he brings us through some dark valleys at times. Now let's go back to our shepherd and his sheep. In order for a shepherd to get sheep up into the highlands where the grass is grown and it's fresh and lush, the shepherd has to lead his sheep through the valley because it's the only way the sheep can begin to climb up the mountain. Sheep don't just jump up a mountain. They're not like goats. They got to go up a path. The valley, though, is where the predators are. But the sheep are safe because the shepherd is with them, and he has a rod and a staff that he uses to drive the predator away. The valley doesn't mean that the shepherd made a wrong turn. For us, to get where God wants us to get, there will be valleys at times, and there will be suffering. But God will get us to the place where he wants us to be. Now listen carefully. There is no value in suffering just for the sake of suffering. So if you're in a valley and you can get out of the valley without sinning or without hurting others, by all means, get out of the valley. God is not looking for masochists. He's simply looking for obedient disciples. If you can't get out of the valley without disobeying God or hurting others, then stay the course. God has a plan, and he'll lead you through the valley.